Okay, let's jump right into our deep dive today. We're focusing on one specific chapter, 2 Chronicles chapter 24.
Right. And this one gives us a really intense look at the reign of King Joash. Pretty much the whole story, start to finish, is packed in here.
And it's quite a story. Highs, lows, some really sharp turns. So I guess our mission here is to unpack the big events, the changes, and the consequences that this chapter lays out for King Joash.
Exactly. It's a fascinating character arc, if you want to call it that.
So Joash, he comes onto the scene in a pretty remarkable way, doesn't he? He becomes king of Judah when he's just 7 years old.
7. Yeah, it's almost hard to wrap your head around a child king.
Right. The chapter mentions his mother, Zibiah, from Beersheba,
Hmm.
and he reigns a long time, 40 years in Jerusalem.
40 years. But the immediate context, the really crucial thing right at the start, is how it says he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, but only while Jehoiada the priest was alive.
Ah, Jehoiada the priest. He immediately sounds like, well, the key figure here. A guardian, maybe? A
Yeah.
mentor?
Definitely. And the text backs that up. It shows Jehoiada wasn't just, a spiritual guide. He was deeply involved. It even says Jehoiada picked out 2 wives for Joash.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and that Joash had sons and daughters. So it highlights just how central Jehoiada was, not just in religious matters, but in setting up the whole royal household, guiding the young king in, well, probably everything.
Okay, so you've got this strong positive influence right at the start. What's the first big thing Joash does under Jehoiada's guidance, according to this chapter?
It's the decision to restore the temple of the Lord. And the text makes it clear this wasn't just like routine upkeep.
Right. It needed serious work.
Yeah, it implies it was in pretty bad shape, maybe even desecrated. We learn a bit more about why later on.
Restoring the temple, the heart of their worship, that sounds like something Jehoiada would absolutely champion. So Joash decides this, and he calls together the priests and the Levites.
Yep, the Levites being the tribe specifically designated for temple service. He tells them, basically, go out to the towns, collect the annual money from all Israel to repair the temple, and do it now. He wants immediate action.
Referencing that old tax from Moses' time for the tabernacle.
Exactly. He's tying it back to their history, the original instructions for maintaining the place of worship.
You'd think the Levites would be all over that.
You would, but the text actually notes a delay. It just says the Levites did not act at once.
Huh. Interesting. So what happens?
Well, this delay makes Joash summon Jehoiada, the chief priest, and he basically asks him, hey, what's the holdup? Why haven't you made the Levites collect this tax?
Even as a young king, he's pushing back on the chief priest, shows he's serious about the temple project.
It does. And around this point, the text clarifies why the temple was in such bad shape.
Ah, right. What does it say?
It explicitly says that the sons of that wicked woman Athaliah, who was Joash's own grandmother, the one who seized the throne earlier, had actually broken into the temple.
Broken it.
Yeah, and used its sacred objects, even for worshiping the Baals. Foreign gods, completely against their covenant with the Lord. So the damage was significant, and it was tied to that period of, well, illegitimate and idolatrous rule.
Okay, that adds a whole other layer. It wasn't just neglect, it was active desecration. So the Levites are slow, Joash is impatient. What's the solution?
Joash and Jehoiada come up with a new system, a very practical one, actually. They had a chest made.
A box.
Yeah, a collection box, and they placed it outside the temple gate, right where people would see it coming into the courtyard.
Smart, visible, accessible, and they announced it.
They did. Issued a proclamation across Judah and Jerusalem, telling people to bring the tax Moses commanded. A public campaign, basically linking it right back to their history.
And how did people respond to this direct appeal?
This is where you see the positive impact of Joash and Jehoiada working together. The text says, all the officials and all the people brought their contributions gladly.
Gladly, that's a key word.
It really is. Suggests real buy-in. People wanted to restore the temple. It wasn't just being forced on them.
And the system for handling the money. Sounds like they had that figured out too.
Yeah, pretty organized for the time. Whenever the chest was full, the Levites brought it to the king's officials. Then the royal secretary and the chief priest's officer would empty it, count the money, and return the chest.
A system of checks and balances almost. Royal and priestly oversight.
Exactly. And it says they did this regularly and collected a great amount of money. So it worked.
Okay, so the money's pouring in. What did they use it for first?
The king and Jehoiada directly oversaw paying the workers. They hired masons, carpenters, the builders, and also workers in iron and bronze to repair and reinforce the temple itself.
Getting the structure sound again, how did the work go?
The text actually praises the workers and supervisors. It says the repairs progressed well, They rebuilt it according to its original design, and they reinforced it. Sounds like a proper restoration, not just patching things up.
Back to its former glory, perhaps?
Seems like it. And after the main building work was done, there was still money left over.
Oh, okay. What happened with the surplus?
They brought it back to Joash and Jehoiada. And with that, they made all the articles needed for temple service, the things for worship, for burnt offerings, dishes, other gold and silver items, basically refurnishing it completely.
So the building, then the fittings, a complete overhaul, and the chapter adds a little summary note about this period, doesn't it?
It does, and it's crucial. As long as Jehoiada lived, burnt offerings were presented continually in the temple of the Lord. Meaning it wasn't just a building project. The actual worship, the core of their relationship with God, according to the text, was fully functioning and faithfully maintained throughout Jehoiada's lifetime.
This whole section paints a picture of, well, success. A righteous king, guided well, achieving something significant.
Absolutely. I think it really underscores the impact of wise, godly counsel, especially for a leader who starts so young. Jehoiada's influence shaped everything, pointing the kingdom towards doing, as the text says, what was right.
Having the right people around you can make all the difference.
Seems to be the message here. It was foundational.
But the chapter doesn't end there.
Yeah,
And the tone shifts dramatically.
it really does. The pivot point is stark. Jehoiada's death.
He lived a very long life, though.
Incredibly long. 130 years old, the text says. And the honor he received in death shows just how vital he was.
Where was he buried?
With the kings, in the city of David. And the text explicitly tells us why. Because of the good he had done in Israel for God and his temple. That's a huge statement, burying a priest with royalty.
A testament to his unique role. So the steady hand, the guide, is gone. What happens next?
It's almost immediate, and the text is blunt. After the death of Jehoiada, the officials of Judah came and paid homage to the king, and he listened to them.
He listened to them. That phrase just hangs there, doesn't it? A totally different set of advisors are now getting the king's ear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the result? Instant and disastrous, according to this account. They abandoned the temple of the Lord and worshipped Asherah poles and idols.
Wow. Hold on. From restoring the temple, constant offerings, to just abandoning it and worshiping Asherah poles, idols. That's not a gradual slide. That's a complete U-turn.
That seems incredibly sudden, yes.
Yeah.
A rapid reversal. And the text immediately links this to God's response. Because of their guilt, God's anger came upon Judah and Jerusalem. Cause and effect.
Did God send any warnings? Try to pull them back.
Yes, the chapter is clear on that.
Yeah.
Although the Lord sent prophets to the people to bring them back to him, they would not listen. The warnings came, but they were ignored.
Which leads to one of the most, frankly, shocking moments in the chapter.
It really is. The story of Zechariah.
Yeah.
The text says the Spirit of God came upon Zechariah, son of Jehoiada the priest.
Jehoiada's son, the son of the man who mentored Joy.
The very same. So Jehoiada's son steps up as a prophet and confronts the people.
What does he say?
A direct, tough message. Why do you disobey the Lord's commands? You will not prosper. Because you have forsaken the Lord, he has forsaken you. He lays it out plainly. Their actions have consequences with God.
How did Joash and the officials react to that message coming from Jehoiada's son?
This is where you see how far Joash has fallen, according to the narrative. It says, they plotted against him, and by order of the king, they stoned him to death.
By order of the king, Joash ordered the execution of his mentor's son.
Yes, stoned him right there in the temple courtyard, the very place his father had worked so hard to restore.
That's unbelievable. A total betrayal.
The text even highlights that. King Joash did not remember the kindness Zechariah's father Jehoiada had shown him, but killed his son. And it records Zechariah's last words. May the Lord see this and call you to account. A cry for justice.
Chilling. And the consequences Zechariah warned about not prospering, God forsaking them, did they follow?
Swiftly, according to the text, at the turn of the year, so within about a year, the army of Aram marched against Joash.
Joram, Syria.
Yes. They invaded Judah and Jerusalem, killed the leaders of the people, and took plunder back to Damascus, a major military defeat.
And the text makes a point about the size of the armies, right?
It does. It emphasizes that the Aramean army came with only a few men. But the Lord delivered Judah's much larger army into their hands.
So it wasn't just bad luck in battle.
No, the chapter frames it explicitly as judgment. Because Judah had forsaken the Lord, judgment was executed on Joash. Again, that direct link between abandoning God and the negative outcome.
And that wasn't even the end for Joash personally, was it? The Arameans left him wounded.
Severely wounded, yes, and vulnerable, which led to another plot against him.
This time from inside his own court.
From his own officials. And the text gives their motive very clearly.
Which was?
They conspired against him for murdering the son of Jehoiada the priest, Zechariah's death. That specific act, ordered by Joash, came back to haunt him.
So they assassinated him. He died.
He died. And the text says he was buried in the city of David, like Jehoiada.
Ah, so he did get buried with the kings.
No, that's the crucial detail. It says he was buried in the city of David, but not in the tombs of the kings.
Oh, okay. Unlike Jehoiada. So despite a 40-year reign, he was denied that final honor.
Exactly. A symbolic marker of his fall right at the end.
The chapter even names the conspirators, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And mentions something about their mothers.
It does. Zabad, son of Shimith, an Ammonite woman, and Jehozabad, son of Shimrith, a Moabite woman. It includes that detail about their foreign mothers, which is interesting.
Just another specific detail kept in this record. The chapter then kind of points you elsewhere for more info.
Yeah, it mentions that more about his sons, prophecies about him, and the temple restoration are written in the annotations on the Book of the Kings. Probably other court records or historical sources they had.
And finally, who took over after Joash?
His son, Amaziah, succeeded him as king.
So looking back at this whole chapter, 2 Chronicles 24, it's quite an arc. You have the young king doing right under this powerful positive guidance, restoring the temple.
Right. And then almost instantly after that guidance is gone, a complete collapse. Abandoning the temple, idolatry, rejecting prophets.
The horrifying murder of Zechariah, his mentor's son.
Which leads directly to invasion, defeat, and Joash's own assassination by officials specifically citing that murder. And ending with that telling detail about his burial.
Yeah, buried in the royal city, but pointedly not in the royal tombs.
It's a narrative of really stark contrasts and swift consequences. The text leaves no doubt, linking the bad outcomes directly to forsaking God after Jehoiada died. The change in counsel seems to be the trigger for everything that follows.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Given how Joash's early success was so tied to Jehoiada and how fast things fell apart afterwards, it poses a powerful question about leadership and influence.
How much does the counsel you choose truly shape your destiny?
Exactly. And the fate of everyone you lead. This chapter seems to lay out a pretty compelling, maybe even sobering case study in the power of influence and the reality of consequence.
It definitely emphasizes the weight of choosing who you listen to. The narrative here presents that choice as, well, potentially the single most critical turning point for his entire reign and legacy. Leaves you pondering those forces, good and bad, that shapes leadership.